Turner drives one to center, chasing Nimmo back to the warning track, right at the fence. He made the catch! Oh, wow! The catch of the year from Brandon Nimmo! He took a home run away from Justin Turner! Wow.
Episode 47. Welcome to the Say Hello podcast. My name is Casey Lynn, joined by my co-host, Bill Pulsifer. We have Chris behind the scenes. Before we get into everything, the usual, what we got to do here, a little, you know how it goes. If you're watching on YouTube at Say Hello Media, hit that subscribe button and follow us wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you are, Apple, Spotify, Google Chrome, Firefox, you name it. Before we get into everything, there's been a lot of stuff going on in the last week or so, and we have a good show today, Bill. I'm excited. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm well, hanging in there. Another week gone. How about yourself?
I'm okay.
All right.
We have a week to go before spring training. Pitchers and catchers. Amazing. Off season has gone slow but fast. I don't know how. Could you do me a favor and explain how the off season seems to crawl, but we're a week away?
Yeah, I think the off season seems to crawl because of the way the free agency works nowadays. But it definitely has snuck up on us, and we're right there. With the temperatures outside, it doesn't seem to be close to baseball season, but we're getting there.
Yeah. So on this show today, we're going to do a couple signings that the Mets made this past week. We're going to talk a little bit about the remaining free agents and some trade scenarios that might pique the Mets' interest. Also, a little talk about Max Scherzer, who got signed by the Blue Jays. We're also going to do, what else are we going to do? Maybe the end of Jose Iglesias. And we're going to talk about probably the biggest trade in NBA history and make the MLB equivalent to it because it shocked the world. It really did, even if you're not an NBA fan.
I was watching the game on the weekend, or was it Saturday? And I don't watch a lot of NBA, but I just happened to sit down and watch the Lakers and the Knicks, and I was wondering why Anthony Davis was not in the Garden. And then the next day, there was a huge trade.
Yeah, well, yeah, I did watch that game as well.
It was a good game.
Yeah, Knicks lost, but the story after was the trade, and we'll talk about it later and make it equivalent to what we think the MLB version will be. Sound good?
I love it.
All right. Before we get into all that, we got to go through number 47 in Mets team history. Who wore those numbers? It was a pretty good list that I saw for number 47. I'll start. I'm sure you have a couple guys that maybe you want to throw in there as well.
Well, you might say my guys, but go ahead.
I don't think I am actually.
You're definitely going to say at least one of them. You have to.
Well, we'll find out. Ready?
All right.
We'll start from the top. Jay Hook wore number 47. Why is Jay Hook important in Mets lore? He was the first ever winning pitcher in Mets history, and that happened on the 40 and 120 worst team ever, New York Mets in 1962. He won on April 23rd, 1962, a 9-1 win over Pittsburgh at Forbes Field. Jay Hook wore the number from 62 to 64, and that year, the first year of the Mets, he actually led the team in games started 34, 13 complete games, but his record, not so good, 8-19. So Jay Hook.
Well, they always say if you can stick around to get that many losses, you must not be that bad because they keep giving you the ball.
Yeah, probably a lot of those. I wasn't around for it. Not his fault,
Yeah.
So that's a big name in Mets lore. We will skip to Jesse Orosco, who, is yeah. We all know Jesse Orosco. He wore 82 to 87. Most famous last out of the World Series.
Well, that was the one that I said you most definitely were going to name from my list. I went with 3 left-handed pitchers, but go ahead and finish your list.
Okay, Wally Whitehurst.
Yep.
89 to 93. And then we got Joe McEwing.
Super Joe.
Super Joe. Everybody loves him. 2000 to 2002. Super utility man. Third base coach for a while afterwards with the the White Sox, I believe.
Yeah, I think he's had a few interviews too for managerial jobs. Just hasn't got the call.
Here's another lefty that we all know, Hall of Famer Tom Glavine.
All right. Well, now I'm down to one guy.
Yeah, Tom Glavine, 03 to 07. He was a Met for a while. He was okay.
Did he start the last game in Shea Stadium?
I was there. I'm trying to think.
He might have started that game. Wasn't that a must-win game?
Yeah.
He started it and did not have a Hall of Fame outing that day.
All I remember, I was there for the last game at Shea in 08. I remember Ryan Church flying out to right field to end the season. Forget who actually started. Could have been Glavine.
I think it was Glavine, and I think he didn't get out of the gates real well. I think he got off to a bad start. I think that was a must-win game.
Yeah, and John Maine, I remember the day before, pitched his ass off to keep the Mets alive.
Right.
And then we have Hansel Robles, who is very famous for putting his finger up.
I was just going to say he's the originator of the pointing the finger when his ball goes over the fence, and Diaz has seemed to try to keep the tradition alive from time to time.
Yeah, Diaz does it a little bit as well. And then, lastly, I have another left-handed pitcher, Joey Lucchesi.
Yes, and that's not my other one. I went with somebody that I actually played with.
Lucchesi,
so you already, excuse me?
I was going to say Lucchesi wore 21, 23, and last year Mets did not tender him. He's now part of the Giants organization, and we wish him well. Who's the other guy you have?
Jason Hockamy.
Yes, I saw him, and it was around your time. So,
yeah, we actually never played together in the big leagues, but we were kind of following each other. I was a little bit behind him coming through the minor leagues, but he was one of the guys that I met early on in my professional career in my first instructional league. So I know Hawk, and he actually has been a manager of a team in the Hamptons League, which is a collegiate league here in the summertime on Long Island. So I actually got to see him a few years ago when my son Liam was playing in that league, and we caught up briefly.
Very cool.
Yep.
Not a bad list.
Not bad.
No. Very surprised. Next episode, we got another good one. I looked ahead a little bit, but we'll save that for another time. Yep. So, Bill, last time we spoke, there weren't any signings to talk about for the Mets. This week, we have two.
Yes.
One a little bit bigger than the other. Ryan Stanek, who you're all about, and Nick Madrigal, utility infielder. Let's start with your boy, Ryan Stanek. We talked about available relievers. You always said bring him back on a 1-year deal. He's back. How do you feel?
I mean, look, I think that the playoffs last year kind of solidified him being a comfortable fit in New York. I think he came from obviously, Tampa Bay and then Seattle, and then he came over or vice versa. So definitely different types of cities. I thought he was fantastic in the playoffs. I loved his energy, getting outs and giving that nice guttural scream that he was given on the way out. His stuff is A+ stuff, 97, 98 miles an hour with a really good split finger and a really good slider. I think he's a good addition, and we've been saying it for weeks, and I think it's a good signing, and I expect him to do well this year.
Yeah, he came over in a trade at the deadline from Seattle, and
he was a Ray before that, I believe.
Houston,
that's right. He was never a Ray.
I don't believe so.
But he pitched in a World Series with the Astros, didn't he?
Yeah,
So that's a good experience.
Yeah, really good too. I think Stearns, David Stearns, of course, looked at the playoff numbers and knew maybe what he was getting if they made
Makes sense. Yeah, makes sense.
So a little bit about Stanek. He's 33, got a 1-year deal for about $5 million. Came over from Seattle, had back issues, struggled in the beginning of his Mets tenure, but once his back healed and got better, just like you alluded to, he was fantastic. His last 19 games, including the 7 games he pitched in the postseason, 20 1/3, 14 hits, 7 earned runs, which is a 3.10 ERA, 7 walks, 26 strikeouts. He was absolutely nails.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah.
Good signing. Good
Yeah.
addition or good bring back, whatever you want to call it.
Right. So there you go. You have AJ Minter from the left side, and you have Stanek from the right side, the bridge to your closer, Edwin Diaz. I like it.
And two nice mullets.
Yeah, the hair for Stanek is enough of a reason to bring him back. You
I
know?
think Minter has a little bit of a mully as well, I believe.
Yeah,
We'll
he
have
does.
to see if he's cut it off, but I think he was a little bit of a mullet guy as well.
Yeah. And like you alluded to, electric stuff, can hit 100. He did in the playoffs. Is a gamer. He's got balls. You know, he always wants the ball. Great split finger, like you said. And one more stat to throw out there. He gets guys to swing and miss, which you want in the bullpen. Here's a cool stat for you. In 2024, he had the 14th highest whiff percentage, 33.2%. And that's among 248 pitchers with a minimum of 500 swings.
Wow.
So he gets you to swing and miss, and that's obviously what you want. So
No doubt.
Very happy about that signing. We'll go to the next signing. I'm a little confused about it. Let's discuss. Nick Mazeral. He comes over after being non-tendered by the Cubs. He had an awful year last year. Barely played. His stats, I don't even want to go into it. They're so bad. But he's a former first-round draft pick, 4th overall, played his entire career, 5 seasons, in Chicago. First 3 with the White Sox, last 2 with the Cubs. He's 27. And I think Stearns sees something in him, like he loves his projects, if you will, because, it was 4 years ago, but in 2021, he had a great year. In 200 at-bats, he hit 303, 349 on-base percentage. And
that his first year? Was that when he first came up?
I believe it was his second year.
Second year?
Yeah. So there's something there. Last year, he only had 86 at-bats and nothing. Obviously, the Cubs non-tendered him. Plays second, plays third. It's a split contract. So we all know how that works. He signed for $1.3 million, and that's if he's in the majors. So let's talk about how you feel about this, because I think it ends Jose Iglesias' era as a Met.
Well, one would think so, which is kind of sad because of all the things like we've talked about this in the past. Lindor was the MVP, but I would put the argument that Iglesias was just as much as the MVP, not necessarily on the field, but what he brought, bringing the clubhouse together and all that. So if that's the case, that's a little bit sad and a little disappointing. But I definitely think you're right about Madrigal being one of those little pet projects for low money. Maybe they figured they were going to save a little bit of money with somebody that could possibly bring the same type of outcome, but it's going to be hard to replace not just what happened in the dugout and in the clubhouse with Iglesias, but he had such a tremendous year. Obviously, Madrigal has a pedigree. Played in the College World Series. Was a first-round draft pick. I felt like he probably went to the big leagues maybe a little bit too early. It felt like he signed as a pro and then was in the big leagues within the next year, and maybe even. It seemed like right after he got drafted, the White Sox brought him up to the big leagues.
Yeah.
Probably has battled some injuries. I know he didn't have a great year last year. It's one of those you got nothing but an opportunity to win. You're not going to lose anything if he doesn't pan out, and you can send him on his way. We've already known that Stearns kind of does that with guys, but there's still young players out there that are coming back off of injury or trying to make their way back to the big leagues or staying in the big league. So it is a little bit of a confusing signing, but I think it's just a pet project and somebody with big league experience to have around as a just in case something doesn't go right.
Yeah. He's only 27. So there you go. He is young. And you're right. Stearns has the tendency to, if you're not performing, bye-bye.
Yeah.
I look at him maybe as last year's Joey Wendell, where they gave him a full guaranteed contract for $2 million. He didn't perform, and they cut him.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with him. But like you said, Jose Iglesias, he was the MVP, if you will. I agree.
In a way, for sure.
In a way.
Everything changed when he came around. So
right, and he's still not signed. And for Iglesias,
which is crazy.
It is. He's a Boris client. Yeah.
Uncle.
Still doesn't have a job. And hasn't got signed. He's 35. And obviously, he had 337 last year, Bill. with an 880 on base percentage, clutch hits, immaculate defense. The vibes were off the chart. I don't know. Maybe he's looking for a starting job, and that's
It could be. I mean, look, he was completely out of the game for a year, right? It wasn't even playing.
2023.
Yeah, and part of me thinks maybe his struggles come playoff time was he was out of gas. You know, it wasn't necessarily in the baseball full year shape, but maybe he is looking for a starting job. I don't know. I mean, at 35 and what went down with him last year, I'm sure he's made some decent coin off of the OMG song and that. So I don't know. Who knows? You know, I hate to think that a 35-year-old utility player has Boris as an agent, but that is what it is.
It's crazy. He's been in the big leagues for parts of like 14 years.
Yeah.
He had Boris as an agent early on, fired him, and then he just brought him back. So make what you want.
Doesn't seem to be panning out for a lot of guys.
Yeah. I believe that is the end of the era of Jose Iglesias. So if it is, we salute you, sir.
Definitely. Yeah, man.
Let's talk a little.
The season around last year.
Absolutely, 100%. Let's talk a little bit about Max Scherzer. He got signed this past week by the Blue Jays, kind of out of nowhere. I mean, there was smoke to it, but I thought it was a weird signing. He got 15 mil, right? Or 15.5 mil, 500 more than Verlander with the Giants. Because they always go at it, you know.
Is he a little younger? Is he $500,000 younger?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's about it.
So before we get into the question that I have for our listeners and you, and that question is, the Mets home opener this year, after they start on the road, the Blue Jays are in town. So Max Scherzer's in town, and he might even be starting against them. We don't know.
Yeah.
Do the Met fans boo? Do nothing? Cheer?
I think they boo, but I think they boo out of ignorance, to be honest with you, when it comes down to me.
So for context, let me give you this, everyone listening. He had a great Mets career.
He did.
Right? He a year and a half, 2022, and then traded at the deadline in 2023 to the Rangers and won a World Series. Mets got Luis Angel Acuna back in that. But for Max Scherzer as a Met in the regular season, he was great. In 2022, 11-5, 23 games started, a 2.29 ERA.
I think that year he put up some of his top numbers, like his peak numbers of his career, actually.
Yeah, I mean, he had the sticky stuff, I believe, incident. You know, he had a little bit of, as he always does later in his career, bruises and, injury stints.
Yeah.
But he was great. He struck out 173 batters in 145 innings with only 24 walks. So he was vintage Scherzer, and I believe why Met fans don't have a fond memory of him is because he blew it against the Braves in the last weekend of the regular season when the Mets needed to win one game. He was terrible. Yeah. And then he was awful in the wild card series against the Padres that year.
Well, unfortunately, sometimes you're your own worst enemy. And when Max Scherzer, the future Hall of Famer, takes the ball when he shouldn't be taking the ball, which is the case in those playoff games, as somebody that dealt with back injuries. I know all about it. But Max Scherzer is a horse, and he is a future Hall of Famer, and he is a stud. He went out there to try to feel like Max Scherzer at 50, 60, 70%, whatever it is going to be better an option than somebody else. And he went out there to try to be a warrior. And unfortunately, it was ill-advised, and he did struggle. But I think that those struggles were not Max Scherzer choking under the circumstances of the situation. I believe more that it was Max Scherzer going out there not healthy and trying to say, you know what, I can tough it out. And sometimes that kicks us in the ass. And he got kicked in the ass a little bit. So I think he was a good Met. He had some bad playoff performances, but not because he was peeing down his leg and scared to be out there. I think it was because he felt like he had to be the guy. And unfortunately there's other Major League Baseball players out there when you're out there too, that are trying to kick your ass and to make you look bad. And I believe, to me, that's what happened.
I would agree. He wasn't at his best. He crapped the bed at when it meant the most.
No, he pitched injured.
Yeah. But his
Crap the
overall.
bed means you shut down your leg and you peed and you choked. You kind of singed it a little bit.
Okay,
Sing
I'll
it
give you
crap
that.
the bed.
Yep,
Scherzer pitched injured.
I'll give you that.
And it's not easy to play in the major leagues, and it's definitely not easy to play in the major leagues when you're not healthy.
So the question is, and we'll get right back to it. His overall stats as a Met, real quick: 20-9, a 3.02 ERA. You know, so he was a good Met for a year and a half. And last year, only 17 starts for the Rangers, 6-6, 3.57. Blue Jays saw something, got a 1-year contract. Now the question: do Met fans boo, clap, or nothing? Home opener in I believe early April.
I'm going to say mixed bag, because there's going to be enough people that understand that the guy, pitched in the playoff games when he probably shouldn't be pitching, but then there wasn't another option. And I think that there's going to be other fans that are just going to look at those playoff games and like this. This goes to what we talked about the you got to believe Mets fans and the disgruntled
Yep.
Mets fans. There's going to be a mixed bag, I think, but there's going to be some boos.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, look, looking back, he would have been booed if he would have said, you know what, I can't go. He was damned if you do, damned if you don't. There was only of three outcomes, only one of them was positive.
Yeah.
I go out there and I pitch well injured and I'm the hero, or I go out there and pitch injured and struggle, or I say I'm not going to pitch, and then they're going to be, he's making $43 million. He should be pitching. So it's going to be a mixed bag. I wouldn't be booing if I'm going to be I won't boo him. I would never boo him.
I'm with you. I wouldn't boo. He had a good, stint with the Mets. He gave it his all. I would clap.
I like that. He gave it his all.
Yeah. I'm probably not going to be at the home opener. I hope I am. But and if I go, I would give him a round of applause. That's just me.
He was trying to be a warrior. In my eyes, he's trying to be a warrior. It's easier to say, you know what, I can't go. And I think over the last few years, as he's gotten older, he's went when he shouldn't have went, and not just with the Mets. I think even when when he went to the Rangers, I think the same thing. He hasn't pitched a lot in those years. But look, 40 years old playing Major League Baseball, there's no steroids anymore. So
right.
It's not like it used to be,
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. If he, maybe gets a video tribute or he starts, we'll see. But
you know what? And like you through off pod, you were telling me that I guess him and Pete are friends, so maybe they sign Scherzer as a, hey, we got a buddy here for you, like a little,
Yeah. I mean, you never know.
You
I was surprised to learn that Pete and him are close, but great. Kind of like what the Mets did with Frankie Montas, best friends with Sean Manaea.
Right. Yeah.
So a little chess, if you will. So we'll see what happens.
Right.
Moving on to the big trade that we were talking about earlier. If you missed it, it was Luka Doncic basically for Anthony Davis. Mavericks, Lakers.
Were the Jazz involved somehow?
Yeah,
too?
It was a 3-team trade, and the Jazz, to take on a salary of another player, got 2 second-round draft picks.
Yeah, picks. Yeah.
Yeah. For context, let me just give you our listeners a little context, because it is the most shocking trade maybe ever mid-season because of what Doncic is, and Anthony Davis is very, very good too.
Oh yeah.
So, and we'll talk about our MLB equivalent, and we want our listeners to chime in as well on our YouTube page at Say Hello Media. For context, it's the first time ever that 2 first-team All-NBA players were traded for each other.
Wow.
Ever. And it was during midseason, right? It's crazy. For more context, Luka, and he's only 25.
Yeah.
Okay? And his resume is insane. Only player in NBA history in his first 6 seasons to have 10,000 points, 3,000 assists, and 3,000 rebounds. While
10,000 points already?
Yeah. While making 5 All-NBA first teams, right? And having 5+ playoff series wins. He's 25, right? He averages around 30 a game already for his career. And those stats, 10,000, 3,000, 3,000, no other player at 25 did that. For context, Larry Bird only had 4, Jerry West only had 4, Michael Jordan only had 2, and LeBron had 4.
I mean, the more you name these stats, I'm going to have to go on a limb and say when we go ahead and try to make our MLB comparisons, there's not going to be one.
Right. That's how crazy this trade is.
Yeah.
And let me just say this. Anthony Davis, he's a first team as well. Great two-way player. He's very good. So, with that being said, and Maverick fans are just beside themselves, protesting.
Well, I mean, you lost the face of the organization, kind of.
Yeah.
And you got a good player back, but you don't have a 25-year-old super duper star.
Yeah. And the reason their GM said is that they're going for it now, and they believe that Anthony Davis with Kyrie Irving it will make their team better now. But the Lakers just got, the replacement for LeBron James for the next 10 years. You know?
Yeah. And he gets to learn from LeBron for the next however long it is.
And there's rumors of the conditioning of Luka, but right. But with that, and defense.
But then he can also learn from LeBron's work ethic. There's a reason why LeBron can do what he's doing at 40 years old. And it's not just because he's one of the top athletes of all time. It's his work ethic is off the charts as well.
I saw a lot of people saying, Luka, get ready to learn the diet,
Yeah.
So probably the most shocking trade I've seen. It came out of nowhere. Everybody was surprised. But for MLB purposes, with the age of 25 and who they got and everything we just talked about, I'll start.
Yep.
For the context of Luka, I would say it'd be like a Bobby Witt Jr., a Juan Soto, or like a Vlad Guerrero, 25, 26, with their whole career ahead of them and the face of their franchise for a long time. And then traded out of nowhere we got Anthony Davis is injury prone. So that would be like a Witt Jr. for like a Mike Trout, if you will. Or maybe like a Blake Snell. Still very good, but he does get hurt. So that's kind of my equivalent of all this. What about you?
I went position because those guys are going both position, right? One's a center, the other's a center. So I'm with you on Mike Trout as the aging superstar who is injury. And I went with the same position with Julio Rodriguez as a young star player. That was my position. I had another one that I thought, but the other guy's not quite as young. And that would be Mike Stanton as the older guy.
Okay.
And Yordan Alvarez as the so position, DH, both DHs.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go with a different position player with a DH or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'd say Trout and Rodriguez as a center fielder for center fielder.
I like that. Very good. I forgot about Julio Rodriguez. So
I didn't want to go because look, obviously Bobby Witt is one of the, and we talked about last week starting our franchise. I'm picking Bobby Witt over Julio Rodriguez because he's a shortstop.
Right.
But I just wanted to I tried to go position for position, kind of like this trade.
Okay. Well, that's why I went with Junior or Vlad or Soto because Luka's a top 3 player in the NBA. So, kind of like Witt and Soto and, maybe.
Yeah. Rodriguez is just below that, but.
Yep. So crazy trade. And we'll see what happens who wins that trade. If the Mavs win a championship, kudos to them, but we'll see.
Should take a little bit of, I think that Anthony is a little better defensive player than Doncic.
I believe he's the first team all defense. So, they got a great player back. It's just Luka was a,
big time scorer.
Just the face of almost the NBA, really. So let's move on to all baseball now. Before we get to the mailbag and quick pitches, and I have a good question for quick pitches, by the way.
Okay.
So a week
spaghetti and meatballs.
Yeah, always. a week for pitchers and catchers. Not many players are left in terms of star power. Jack Flaherty just got signed by the Tigers, so he's off the market. He goes back to Detroit, 1 year and an opt-out. Got paid well. So he did well in Detroit, won a ring in L.A., so it works out for him. And the only top reliever I can think of that's really available is David Robertson. But the Mets already got Stanek, so I believe they're done. But
who knows, man?
Here's what I wanted to talk about last week, and we ran out of time.
Mm-hmm.
Names are floating with the Padres because they've done nothing this offseason. Their ownership, it's not good over there. And I believe they're going to make a big trade, and I believe it's going to probably be Dylan Cease. Him and Michael King are both free agents. And here's the question. Mets are in on both. There's been rumors. A lot of teams are in. It would be a one-year rental, and they're both great pitchers. And the Mets, their rotation is not the best. Like right now, Manaea is your ace, and he, like we spoke about, very good pitcher. But is he an ace? I don't know.
Right.
So
no,
real quick, Dylan Cease last year led the league in games started, led the league in I believe strikeouts with 224.
Wow.
14-11, 3.47 ERA. Michael King, 30 games started. First year starting, he came over in the Soto trade from the Yanks. 30 games started, 13-9, 2.95 ERA. Great year.
Super funky delivery.
Yeah.
And nasty stuff.
Great stuff. And he had 201 strikeouts in 173 innings. Kind of like a Seth Lugo, came from relieving to starting.
Yeah.
If the Mets could land one of them, and I know the Padres are looking for a lot, even though it's a one-year rental, who would you rather have? Hypothetically, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but, if we're just playing the video game and you could have one of them, either or is going to cost you maybe an Acuna or a Jet Williams or a Mauricio,
Obviously.
Yeah, they're going to ask for a lot, and I believe one of them's going. What are your thoughts?
Oh man, that's a tough call. Who's younger?
I believe King. But they're around the same age because they're hitting.
I'm going to say this. That's a tough call, man. I'm going to say Cease simply because I think with those crazy mechanics and throwing across his body the way that King does, he has more of a chance of breaking down over time.
Okay.
And I could be wrong, but that's just my thought. I mean, obviously that's part of what makes him really, really nasty is he throws way across his body and he hides the ball very, very well. I think Cease's mechanics are a little more traditional, a little more direct towards home plate. So that would be, I'd take either one of them right now, obviously, and add them to the rotation. But I'm just going to go on looking down the line. King has a better chance of possibly injuring himself with the way he throws.
Okay. I'm going to agree. Cease's body of work, he starts 30 games every year.
Yeah.
So you know what you're getting. Strikeout guy. And honestly, he was terrible against the Mets all of last year. The Mets lit him up. So, that ERA would be way down if he was.
It's funny how sometimes you have that one team that you just can't seem to get out, but you can get everybody else out.
The only reason I would say maybe King, obviously electric stuff and a great pitcher.
Yeah.
The track record isn't there, but also I would love it for one stupid reason is that it would kill the Yankee fans if got, King. But
right. Yeah, they'd hate to see him come over here and succeed on the other side of town. I would take either one of them.
Yeah.
I like I said, just a little fear of injury.
Yeah.
But they're not going to change that either because that's part of what makes him nasty.
It's hypothetical, but I do think one of them is going to be traded. So it's a possibility. The Mets were in for Garrett Crochet, who went to the Red Sox. So, Stearns is looking. So they're there. So we'll see what happens.
You're going to need some backup because you're not sure what you're going to get from, Senga. We don't know. You don't even know if he's healthy, physically or mentally right now.
Exactly. And before we get to the mailbag, I was thinking about this today, Bill. Again, a week to go till spring training. Jose Quintana is still available.
Yeah.
And not coming back to the Mets, but I haven't heard a peep about him all winter, and he was excellent in the stretch run for the Mets. I believe he gave up like one run in 30 innings.
I think he'd still be a serviceable pitcher for somebody.
Yeah.
Look, you just got to, and we've talked about this numerous times over the pods. Baseball is one of those strange games where you can go away for an off season and it can be, that's that. Jose Valentin's a great example that I always use, as a guy that had a tremendous year as he got a little bit older, and then came back 4 months later and just was not the same player. So I'm sure that's probably a little bit of the fear, probably a little too many 5-inning outings last year out of Quintana, but solid pitcher, quality Major League Baseball player for many years, and hey,
It's just
still
odd.
go.
It's just odd I haven't heard his name, and like you said, service.
Well, when you look at the list of free agents, I can't believe the fact that the big time names hold so many people up. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
They need to start setting a market for the guys that aren't the big time names and get those deals done. I mean, look, a lot of them get done behind, you don't really realize they're happening, but I see a lot of names out there. Like, what are these guys? What are they still not signed for?
Right. The other name, Met related, and last one, haven't heard his name at all. Phil Maton. He was great before the playoffs for the Mets.
And did you watch the playoffs?
I did, and he was terrible. But
he didn't have major league stuff, and people saw that.
But while they got him at the deadline a little bit before, he was the go-to guy. And again, not a peep. So it's like
strange.
It is strange. Did we go from 30 teams to 22? Crazy. With that being said, mailbag time. All right. We Shay_hello. We asked people to write in their questions for Bill and me. We'll start with JK at NYMGI. He has a
back
question.
On the top of the list again.
Yeah. Well, he goes number one. He has a question for you.
Okay.
For Bill, there was buzz this week from the Jays beat reporter that some agents were approaching or trying to approach Pete Alonso about being their agent because of the whole mess that's going on now. Did that sort of thing happen when you were playing?
There was look, I mean, I changed agents at one point in time during my career. That's definitely a thing. It's not like, I'm not going to say it happens all the time, but there's definitely, you'll have people poking around, or you might even poke around a little bit to see what's going on. So it's a thing, and I'm sure that through all of this saga, I'm sure there's probably been times where Pete has questioned what's going on, and did I make the right decision, and might have take some phone calls from some people. But yeah, it's a thing. I wouldn't say it's an everyday occurrence or anything, but it's definitely, there'll be people poking around a little bit.
Okay. It was just odd, the timing, of he's under contract with Boris, and they all see it's not going.
There's no collective bargaining agreement or collusion between agents.
Right.
It's not like you're talking to another ball club. You're
right.
talking to somebody else that feels like they can get a deal done for you.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I like the question. Thank you, JK. We got a question from Jake 12889 for both of us. For Bill, did you have a oh my God moment early in your MLB career where you were like, wow, I'm a Major League Baseball pitcher?
Yeah, the one that really sticks out to me, and I didn't even play that day. It was just walking out down through the dingy little tunnel from the clubhouse to the dugout at Shea Stadium, and then walking out of the dugout for batting practice, and just the grandeur, how big Shea was actually, and just saying, holy shit, I'm in uniform and I'm a Major League Baseball player, so that was literally the first time I ever walked out of the, you've been waiting your whole life. I was, granted, I was only 21 years old, but from the time I was 4 years old, I was saying I was going to play Major League Baseball. So that was the very first moment. That was the, oh my God, I'm here.
It happened basically right away.
I was there, and holy shit. And I was playing for my favorite team that I rooted for growing up.
That's a great story. I love that.
It gives me chills.
Yeah. I'm sure it does still to this day.
100%.
Yeah. He has a question for me, and it goes back to Shea Stadium. Casey, can you describe, as a fan going to Shea Stadium, to other fans? It is my favorite stadium.
Wow.
I love Shea Stadium, just like you did. You got to play there, obviously. I loved Shea Stadium. I named my dog after her. I went there all the time. I loved everything about it. The neon lights outside, the bathroom smelling like urine, the water leaks if you were walking sometimes on the concourse. But honestly, the way it shook, on a big moment, it rocked. And it just was built for baseball and 55,000 people, I missed it. I like Citi Field, but nothing will ever replace Shea Stadium. And also, last thing, the planes, they were low, they were loud.
They were loud.
And, batters have to step out. I don't know if you have to step off, sometimes, but
Absolutely.
those little unique things, they all added up.
100%.
We got Jimmy. Thanks for the question, Jake. Jimmy Lags 678 for both. Same question. Who is the best batter and pitcher you ever saw live?
I thought about this. I've got two pitchers. One, I actually got to stand in the batter's box to see it live, which is crazy.
Right.
The other one I just got to see from the dugout watching him play, and it would be Randy Johnson would be the one that I got to see from the dugout. I got to see him throw a 2-hit shutout in Houston when he got traded to the Astros. And the other one that I got to see in the batter's box would be Pedro Martinez. Right. And he threw a shutout that day. And that was the last game I pitched in the major leagues before I had to have Tommy John surgery. So that'll be something that I always remember. Best hitter I ever saw, Barry Bonds and Tony Gwynn. And, in person, those are the two best I ever saw.
Those are obviously Hall of Famers and great.
All four of them.
Yeah. For me, obviously I wasn't in the batter's box against Pedro Martinez. I'll go with pitcher first. I would actually agree with you. Randy Johnson was just not human,
Yeah.
Just 6'10", overpowering, scary on the mound. As a fan, I didn't want to face him, as a Met fan. He was that guy. Just intimidating, Batter, people might disagree. Tony Gwynn was great. Bonds was great. All that. Ichiro was great. But Mike Piazza for me,
Yeah, nobody hit the ball harder. That's for sure.
The Opal Field power. He was clutch, intimidating with that goatee and mustache and, all that kind of stuff. So for me, maybe a little biased, but it was Piazza for me.
I've told you this before, batting practice for guys that I played with, because I didn't play with Bonds. I didn't play with Gwynn. But batting practice, the two guys that hit the ball the hardest for when you're standing on the field close to the infield and you need to make sure you're paying attention, was Jeremy Burnitz was one of them. And then Piazza was the other one, where it's like, hey, man, you're a pitcher, not an infielder. You need to stay away from the infield right now because this guy might hurt you.
Yeah. I didn't think Jeremy Burnitz would be there, but wow.
He hit the ball. I'm telling you, he hit the ball hard. He would knuckle the ball a lot in batting practice because he would square it up a lot, believe it or not, and he would sting the ball.
Piazza, he was the type of player that, kind of like a McGuire, that you wanted to get there 2.5 hours early to see him take batting.
That's funny. I got a funny McGuire story real quick. 1999, I was with the Brewers opening day, and we were playing the Cardinals, and we come out for batting practice, and we're stretching, and Big Mac comes up to hit. And I guess, usually the first round of batting practice is always, hit the ball the other way, just getting loose. But apparently Mac would come in and hit in the cage before he would come out to the field, because he knew exactly what was going to go on when he got to batting practice. And he took his first 5 swings and he hit the ball up in Big Mac land in left field.
Right.
First 5 swings, I'm like, holy shit, look at this. So that was incredible power.
Yeah, he put on a show for sure.
He sure did.
Yeah. Thank you for the question, Jimmy. And last question, Jeff Cohen at Jeff Cohen 41. Great podcast, Baseball on BBQ. He's got a question for each. Start with you. For Bill, what will you do to get ready for spring training? Did you have an off-season routine?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Season ends. It's usually a month of basically nothing. For a month, just kind of chill out, relax, see family, visit friends. Then it would be after a month, you start getting into the gym again, start working out. At about 6 weeks, start playing catch. Then you would between your workouts and your playing catch. And I lived in St. Lucie for a long time. Even when I was playing with other ball clubs, I lived in St. Lucie, and because of my relationship with the guys up there at the minor league clubhouse, I was still allowed to, even though I wasn't a Met, to be up there and using their facilities, which was always great. Working out Monday through Saturday, take Sundays off. After a few weeks of throwing, you get on the mound. You start with your fastballs and your changeups. And luckily, living in St. Lucie, I had other guys that were pro players as well living down there. So always had a throwing partner, always had workout partners.
Right.
After 3 weeks or so of throwing, you get on the mound and you start getting ready. It's almost like you would get to spring training, you would almost go backwards a little bit and go back to just throwing just fastballs, where when you would get to spring training, you had already been throwing it long enough to where you were into your breaking balls and all of that, and kind of making sure you're 100% ready. But definitely a routine. And, I think most pitchers' routine is something similar to that.
Yeah, creatures of habit, right?
That's it.
Question for me from Jeff. Are you ready for pitchers and catchers? Yeah, for sure. Easy. Yes, Jeff. And his second question, do you think one of the kids, Acuna, Mauricio, etc., make an impression to make the team? That's a good question. They don't have a backup shortstop as it is right now, and it's Acuna. So I think he has a chance. He obviously did well in his cup of coffee last year with Lindor hurt. Mauricio, I don't think he'll be ready to make the team, but he'll probably be on the team at one point in 2025. So I would say Acuna probably has a good shot, just backup shortstop. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, look, he surprisingly hit better than was advertised when he got up there. The only thing you don't want to do with young players, and this is what makes Madrigal and possibly Iglesias still in the picture, is you don't want to have a young guy that's sitting around. We know that Lindor does not take days off unless absolutely necessary. So that would be my only concern with Mauricio. Mauricio is that you don't want that young guy sitting around and not getting his at bats, because he's not going to progress like that. He's not going to get better. And if they really think that Acuna at some time becomes an everyday player, whether it be at second base, if need be, because obviously Lindor's locked in, or if Lindor gets injured, you don't want him to be sitting around not getting at bats, and then now Lindor gets injured, or you need him to go play second base and he hasn't been seeing pitching. I know it's different nowadays, and I think Lindor proved it playoff time last year with the types of batting machines and pitching machines that they have now to throw to the guys, that they can keep a little bit more close to game ready. But that would be my only concern with him. But he impressed last year. He impressed. He also impressed with his swag, I guess. These young guys, and I guess I was one of those too. I was guilty of it, but definitely threw his swag out there.
It happens to the best of us.
I would be the same. I know if I have to, at 51, I bitch about it, but I have to think back at 21. If I was 21 in 2025, I would be doing the same shit.
Probably, yeah.
Probably.
I like your point on Acuna, just the young player. You want them to get at bats and not get cold.
You don't get better sitting around.
Right. So
you get better playing.
In Syracuse, okay. And that's the struggle you have as the GM. So good questions, Jeff. We appreciate it as always. That's going to wrap up the mailbag. It's time for quick pitches.
Right on.
I believe I got a good one in here, but we'll start with a normal one.
You work your way into it a little bit.
Exactly.
All right.
Question 1.
Yes.
If you're stuck in one city for the rest of your life, where would you want that to be and why?
I mean, this is corny as hell, but I honestly, I'd like to live in St. Lucie again someday. Why? Because it was home for such a long time, and I know the place, I know the area. Just nostalgia, I guess. And it's Florida. Obviously, summertime was rough, but you got air conditioning and hopefully a pool. But if I was stuck in one city, St. Lucie, it's got everything you need.
Yeah, it's definitely changed as well. They built it up nice.
Oh man, it's crazy. There was a time where it was the number one growing state or city in the country, and I think it's actually back to that again. Like in the early 90s, it became the number one. And I think I was down there, in November watching the local news, and they were saying it again. I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah, they've done a good job for sure. And we're going to hear about it for the next month,
Yes.
All right. Number 2. Here we go. I like this question.
This is the one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I heard it on another podcast, but it was so
Okay.
good. I got to ask you.
Right on.
I'm building it up, but here we go. If you have 100 grapes and you get $10,000 for each grape, but one of the grapes is poisoned and you die, how many grapes are you eating?
If each grape I eat, I get $100,000.
10,000.
Oh, 10,000. But I'm going to die if I eat. And how many grapes do I have?
100. And you don't know which one. It could be 99, 100, could be 5. How many grapes are you eating? Is it 0? Is it you're not taking it?
As soon fuck, I'm saying I'm not taking it.
Okay.
I'm probably not taking it.
Right. Okay.
I've done some shit in my life that I know that I shouldn't have, and I probably could have died. But I think I've done enough of that maybe that's not a good idea.
What about if it was 100 gram per grape? You do one, call it a day?
Maybe one and call it a day.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I'd like to say I don't want to do anything that's going to lead to possibly dying, but
it's like roulette,
Yeah, exactly.
But with grapes. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fair. And question number 3, not as good as 2 in my mind, but Bill, what's your favorite smell? We all have that, that weird, we like it.
Can I say marijuana?
Yeah, you can.
I enjoy the smell of marijuana.
It's not a bad smell.
How about we're going to pizza?
That works. Good pizza.
Good pizza.
Yeah, the New York kind.
I don't know. I do like the smell of marijuana.
That's fair. I like it too.
Not necessarily, and it doesn't even have to be burnt marijuana. Fresh flower marijuana smells good too.
Herbal, absolutely. That's gonna wrap up quick, pitches. Before you wrap up, we got to talk real quick. Our predictions coming up this week's Super Bowl. Eagles, Chiefs, rematch, I believe, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Who do you got?
I don't want either one of them to win. I'm tired of both of them. I don't really like the Eagles. They've won one recently. I'm hoping Canada turns the power off.
Okay.
I don't know. I really don't give a shit who wins. Who do I got? Who's going to win? The Chiefs are going to win again.
Right.
That's what I think.
Yeah. I'm going to go. I don't really have a rooting interest, but I just can't stand Philly. So I'll root for Pat Mahomes and
again.
They'll go for the 3-peat, but I can't root for Philly. Whether it's the Eagles, the Phillies, the 76ers, I can't. So KC for me. So
I think they're going to win too. I don't have a rooting interest either.
Yeah.
Like we said last pod and the pod before that, it was kind of wishful thinking with the other two teams. Would have been more interesting to see. But the Eagles and the Chiefs have proven through battle that they are the two better teams and they deserve to be there. So I'll be watching, but I think the Chiefs are going to win. But if I say that, you should probably bet the Eagles if you're a gambling guy, because I'm never right. So
I'll be watching. Hope for a good game. Fair?
That's it. Just hope for a good game.
Okay. Well, that's going to wrap up episode 47. Amazingly, 1 week to pitchers and catchers. Bill, you excited? It's on the horizon. Baseball's back.
Yeah, I'm always look forward to spring. So at least, pitchers and catchers means spring is close. Life is always better when you can get to turn the baseball games on and watch a little bit of baseball. I'm not a huge NBA guy. Obviously, NFL's coming to an end, so there's a little bit of a lull. I'm not a huge hockey guy either. So looking forward to it.
It is upon us. So with that being said, for Bill Pulsifer and Chris behind the scenes, my name is Casey Lynn saying so long from the Say Hello podcast.